the region to be? An international airport catering for the region.
This region has a potential in terms of the population. 5 million people constitute 12% of our national population.
We have room for hotels and lodges. We have room for meat processing.
We created a one-stop shop for all the investors. You don't need now to visit all the 8 counties.
We say the very first thing that happened in the north.
This is the region. You will have opportunity to shake hands with the champions. After every 30 minutes, you are likely to pump into one.
This is the place to be, and this is the place that will propel Kenya to the next heights.
All those things that you have been told are there. The opportunities are key.
So we will start with Mr. Kiprono Kitonyi. Mr. Kiprono Kitonyi is a chairman, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Sir?
What I would like to address myself to is the very important question of what investors want. What do investors want? What are the questions that are in the minds of people who've traveled far and wide to participate in this forum? The first thing they want is easy and reliable energy. They want access to capital at reasonable cost. They want human resource availability. They want a legal and regulatory environment that is predictable. And finally, they want to see a market that allows for free movement of goods and services. And I think, Dr. Sezibera, for us, we are really, as Kenyans, embracing the customs union. We embrace East Africa, and we really want to see a situation where goods and services flow freely without non-tariff barriers. And from where you sit, we would like to really challenge you to really encourage our neighboring countries to have the same attitude. Let's see a Ugandan being able to come to Kenya and work without any hindrance. A Tanzanian going to Rwanda. Let's see goods and services moving without delays at the border. Let's see a situation where we can engage our counties, engage our national governments. On that note, I think it's also my duty to commend the national government, because this government has really opened a lot of boundaries, a lot of markets for us. It's a big question that I ask. Why do we have chicken move all the way from Brazil and finding market in Congo? Why do we have butter moving all the way from New Zealand and finding market in Nigeria? Why do we have a highly competitive leather industry in Ethiopia when we have 7 million cows in Turkana and 4 million cows in Baringo? There's a lot of opportunity. We need to find a way that we can unlock it. And I'm so glad, CS Kandia, that you've mentioned the SMEs. What are we doing to empower our SMEs? And also what Speaker Ethuro said about charity beginning at home. I want to say that as I congratulate the governors for combining themselves into this block, what are we doing to engage our local investors? Are we engage them to find out what environment they are seeking before we even go to the rest of the world to call them in, to ask them to come and invest in our region? Looking at the trade situation in Africa, there's still boundless opportunity. Intra-European trade is at 63%. Intra-African trade is only 11%. And by combining into blocks like this, we create the economies of scale that make us attractive. Last year, when we accompanied the President to the United States for the Africa Leaders Forum, American investors were struggling with the idea that Africa comprises of 53 countries. So you can imagine how they will struggle with an idea of telling them I'm one county with 1 million people. At the Chamber of Commerce, we have the resources. We want to work with the governments, county governments. We've signed an MOU with the COG, and it is our intention that we would like to really partner with the county governments in seeing to it that in the future we create as many of these investment conferences that give value to the county governments and that give value also to the business people that are present in those counties. And let's look at countries around the world where chambers have worked very well. Chambers work best where it is even compulsory. In Dubai, in Malaysia, and in Singapore, you have no choice but to belong to a chamber. Here it is voluntary. But let's try and create an environment where we strengthen the private sector through this institution. And finally, let me just congratulate the county governments again and say that, as Chinua Achebe said, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. Thank you very much.
This is an idea whose time has come. A very irresistible idea. I want to focus my attention to energy. And I want to address this particular aspect on specific terms. One, for investors within the country that are looking forward to investing in this part of the world, I want to assure them that Kenya Power and Lighting Company Limited guarantees you affordable power for your investments. As we speak today, and for those who are already in business, you are aware that the cost of power has come down for both industry and domestic consumers at an average of about 15% for domestics and about 20% for industrialists. Courtesy of cheaper sources that have been exploited, more particularly geothermal energy, that has displaced expensive power from thermal sources. So much are going on as we speak today in terms of generating from those cheaper sources. And there's huge potential around these blocks, around this block, that those resources are available at closer quarters, and therefore continued reduction in the cost of energy is guaranteed. For those who are coming over to Kenya, it is important to know that as we speak today, Kenya stands proud among the 52 African countries as number 13 in terms of installed capacity. Over 60% of the capacity is green energy. And therefore, we join the race among those who are leading in renewable energy sources. And I want to let them know that, coupled with the opportunities that we have talked about, potential in terms of human resources, potential in terms of youth, potential in terms of land, and of course, infrastructure, banking institutions, etc. This is a destination that you need to be looking at as we move forward. Coming back to those who are already here, and more particularly counties, it is important to note that even as we form this particular block, we are addressing both local and international investors. And they will be local in most of the cases. Most of the investors will eventually be local investors. And what we are asking ourselves, and what we must ask ourselves, is this: that what will make an investor already who has invested in Nakuru, who has done it in Kisumu, who is doing it in Machakos, who is doing it in Nairobi, to want to come here, or to want to go to Iten, for example, or to invest in any of the headquarters of these particular eight counties? There must be something that is going to be different, more attractive as compared to where they are at the moment. And I want to pick one case. If you look at Nairobi as we speak today, the level of security has improved because of the level of lighting in the streets of Nairobi. About 2 weeks ago, when we met with the KEPSA, an association of manufacturers, the governor for Nairobi, Honorable Kidero, told the meeting that the previous evening, the number of crimes reported in Nairobi were only 2. as opposed to the previous record of close to 300 crimes reported every night. And so if we are talking about attracting other investors, it's important to recognize that lighting our space is important, even as we empower them. And so I want to call upon the county leadership to appreciate that no investor would want to bring their money to a dark space. Let us invest in street lighting, even as we power the rest of the economy. We also must highlight this point that as we empower industrialists, it's important to recognize that there lies an opportunity among communities. For a very long time, we have not been able to connect as many people as possible within the counties and within the country. In fact, as a matter of record, between 1922 when KPIC was established and 2013 March, we connected only 2 million Kenyans. In the last 2 years, we have been able to connect 2.2 million Kenyans. And that tells you the speed with which we are moving. And we now have 4.2 million households connected to the economy, or rather this particular to the network. And what that does, investors, is this, that we begin to empower our own communities. We begin to have our children access the internet while at home. We begin to change their mindset as they compare themselves among other communities around the world. And so the message I come with is powering our communities so that they can be able to move forward with the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
I can spot Mr. David Lagat. Mr. David Lagat is the chairman, DL Koisagat and Eldo City. He is also a key player in the tea industry. Sir, in that industry, of course, you've had interactions with farmers and across also the value chain up to value addition. Talk to us about agribusiness in the region, quote unquote, also value addition, and what that means to opportunities here.
Mine is to thank you all for the contribution you've done in developing this new idea of cooperating together. It's a very noble idea because we are forming a very strong force of economy. Our country needs players in the industry who are very strong, and they only come in because if you are going to develop clear objectives in terms of policy, as a counties, people will be attracted to come for investment. If you are going to do very clear policies, people are going to come for the investments. I would like to say that this forum mainly is focused into creating employment through the investments, creating markets for our produce. I want to emphasize on agriculture. Our country is very strong in agriculture, and we need to focus on agriculture as a county because this is the region where big agriculture is being done. I want to say that with this noble idea, we'll form a very strong markets for our crops. Imagine the governors who are present here visiting Tesco in London and meeting the MD of Tesco and telling the MD of Tesco, please, we want to supply our cheese to your supermarket. We want to supply our tea to your supermarket. Definitely they'll give you audience. So we are very grateful that this thing will get us to a very high heights in terms of development. I want also to say, in terms of this forum, I must thank the devolution because what has happened is have created opportunities on the regions where everything was concentrated in Nairobi. But currently, right now, real estate in the counties is growing very fast. And that is our focus as a group of companies. We are seriously developing, decongesting the towns. And I want to say, we are focused in terms of developing new cities. I was suggesting that the new cities be developed and be called the commercial cities. And then we have the traditional cities being administrative cities. Because if we have a planned city we'll have industries in a sector, we'll have hotels in a different place, so that we have an organized in terms of congestion, will reduce. It's not only infrastructure. Because if we say we focus on infrastructure, the land within the towns are very small. But if we focus in developing cities within the cities, we are decongesting the place. I also want to to talk to the community, the county community, that we want you to focus mainly on the youth. Because these are the future leaders in the business. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that you need to develop an area or colleges or institution, two institutions, one for agriculture and one for business, so that we develop youth into becoming serious business. Because somebody comes out of the school and goes to do business without any laid procedures on how to start a business, definitely will fail. But if we have an organized institution, a county institution, we come together, we'll develop a very strong base of business in our region. Because the youths are ready to do business, but they need to be taken through on the real practical of business. And we are ready to help. I want to thank that also in terms of counties, create opportunities that are available for our people. We want our counties to create opportunities in agriculture and say there is an opportunity for somebody to come all the way from abroad, set a value addition plan and guarantee markets for our crop right in abroad. Because there are countries, for example, Turkey, for example, Nigeria, for example, cocoa. All these places are importing food. If we focus on value addition and bring them and we do joint ventures, we can be able to access the market easily, because they will develop the high level of quality in terms of products. I would like to end there by saying we as DL Group, we have entered into energy. Energy, as Mr. Chuma said, is very, very, very important. Because if we don't see in the energy and we are encouraging investors to come, it will be very, very difficult to develop. We need to invest, and counties, you should facilitate so that we invest in the energy, because that's the very key issue. Industrialization, I would like to say, we need to focus, because we will create easily employment for our youths. If we focus and develop each county to develop an industrial park, serious industrial park, whereby you develop cottage industry for the youth and the other industries, definitely you will create employment. You as a county, you will get revenue coming in. Even in the real estate, you will get revenue coming in. So we need to focus and say, yes, we need to see where we are getting our revenue as a county, so we don't depend on the national government all the time. So I believe your opportunity given, you must also be able to be efficient in terms of developing policies that will attract investors. So in terms of value addition, we should focus on value addition, and you should create a place whereby we'll develop the value addition in terms of milk, in terms of maize, in terms of anything, so that we don't sell as a raw product only. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
We all know that ICT is a business enabler. It's an enabler of business. What do I mean by that? I mean it drives globalization. And when we talk about drives globalization, globalization is network of people and information that aids us to access markets and be able to make decisions in terms of opportunities that the markets are representing to us. 2, knowledge management. What does ICT do? You acquire knowledge easy. You know, the global internet is a global resource. All the citizens of the world, so long as you are connected, you'll be able to access knowledge. Either it's education, either it is in manufacturing, either it's a storytelling of different industries, you will be able to benchmark and understand what the rest of the world is doing in terms of even getting data of new opportunities which are being presented. ICT enables you to be that global player. The other one, which is also very important, ICT drives productivity and creates efficiency in terms of how you run factories. I'm sure some of you have heard of what we call Internet of Things. It is here. Technology is being driven by what we call sensory technology, allows manufacturing to be able to maintain with few workforce and achieve a better productivity and efficiency. The other thing which is also critical on ICT, it is creating visibility for you. You are able to market yourself, you build your website. I'm sure the rest of the world is accessing these discussions as we are seated here, whether you are in Chicago, whether you are in California, whether you are in London, Russia, Middle East, even the so-called far areas of Chile. Today, this is visibility. You can use ICT to attract foreign direct investments, FDI, in this region. So ideally, by all investors all over the world. Recently, I was in China, and the first thing that they tell you is that they already know the profile of my company. They already know the position where I come from. They know the activities we do in this country, in our group. And so ICT enables you to be in that global scale. So I want to say that that is very critical. I want also to deal with the issue, what we do as a company. We as Jamii Telecom, we are connecting Kenyans for productivity and sustainable growth. This is the same theme I've seen growing together. It is the same thing. We want you to grow. What have we done? We put here, we have invested in this region, particularly Eldoret, Iten, Kapsabet. We have put the world-class fiber optics. Even Kitale, I'm sure the governor of Kitale, we are in the process of expanding to Kabarnet, and I'm sure soon we'll be able to do even West Pokot. We have given you this network to enable your businesses to compete on the same platform like any company in the world. So you need to seize that opportunity. Gentlemen, we are also in the region ourselves. We are as far as Kampala, Kigali, Kampala and Dar es Salaam. We are connected to the rest of the world on investment in the undersea cable. What does it mean? We brought the world to your village. So what you need to do, make sure you connect your business to it. And this is what you as a counties, you can reposition yourself to be competitive, because you have to brand yourself that you are connected. Nobody will come and sit here if you cannot be able to access information. No tourist will come here if you will not be able to access his data instantaneously. And that is why we have technology in this region. On the other side, I'm also an investor in the manufacturing, particularly the agro business. We put $1 billion investment recently. We are expanding now, both wheat and maize flour, and we are going to process, also investing the issue of animal feed, because we want to develop the dairy industry in this country. We know that's a challenge, and we'll be investing and possibly we'll be sharing in the future what we are doing, but this is something that we're already doing ourselves. It's not the question that we are saying that we want to come, we are already participating. On the issue of the media, I think all in general, there is opportunity. You have human potential in this region. And you are right consumers for any investor. And I want you to believe in yourself, because you have the right opportunity. God bless you.
To a man who I've been shying away to shake his hand because I've dealt with him quite at length with matters East Africa. Please allow me to invite on stage, and I'm happy that you'll sit next to me so we can have this chat very closely here, Ambassador Dr. Richard Sezibera, to join us on the panel to just basically shed light on what we're actually looking at. And the whole agenda for this is positioning the North Rift Economic Bloc to take advantage of the East African community and surpass that and look at Central Africa. As Ambassador is making his way on stage, I'd want to just pose it now to Alikan, and I know we had this chat with you earlier on NTV today, is you sit a lot with investors, you sit a lot with the money bags, or with potential people who are looking, angel investors, venture capitalists. What will you say is kind of their top priority areas when they're looking towards investment in such a region?
A couple of points actually I picked up on from the Baringo governor, who said look at harmonization, look at predictability, and it took me back, there is an enormous opportunity here for everybody to get together, but you really need to make it more symmetrical. We need to reduce asymmetry, and I think you'll find a lot of money will come in. I think there's a very big opportunity from this region into the rest of this part of East and Central Africa.
Thank you, Alikan. Dr. Gituru, I think the question that I'm sure you'll expect of a lunch or when you interact with investors who've traveled far and wide to attend this forum is how do they position themselves, especially for the standard gauge railway line. I know last week we were in Baringo, and Baringo County has actually identified 2 spots that LAPSET will actually be beneficial to them. And they're saying, we want this very fast. Do you feel the same?
I think I will start with Ben. And I think, Ben, you couldn't have said it better than you did here. And I think that's something we are lacking. And the questions I was asking myself, how many of us here will get a check as we leave? We'll get a check from an investor. And I think it's important when you have the best brands. And I'm so excited. I've never met Kipoboy, and I would like to have a selfie with him. It's a fantastic county to be in. But when I look at the Vision 2030, I see 3 things. 1, it came from Richard leadership. And the county governance, that is the leadership we want from you. A question was asked, why are members of parliament? They are not here. And we don't need them. We need the governors because the governors are the ones with the people. You are the people every day here. Those guys are in Nairobi. And we from the vision, that's very clear. That's what we're talking about the SDR. That's what we're talking about LAPSET. Let me talk about LAPSET. Because LAPSET is so critical. I was in the home. But then when we are here, we say we are home. 2 weeks after I was at home in Turkana. And LAPSET is an opportunity for local entrepreneurs, for external entrepreneurs. It's something which is going to open this. And don't be cheated. And Madam Khadija, you are here, CS. Whether Uganda decides to go through Tanzania, that's not an issue. We must do LAPSET. Because LAPSET are 2 things. LAPSET will bring insecurity down. It will open up the northeastern, it will open this part of the world. Secondly, LAPSET is why we are going to export our oil and any other. So I think LAPSET, SGR are 2 important investments within our government. And I think it's the government at the county levels which we are looking upon. There's a very good article today in the Standard, if you can read it. Devolution will work and must work. The last point I want to make, the best investment, Arturo, the best investment is time, time, and time. Thank you.
Ambassador, when you drive from the capital, coming all the way down to Wasingishu, where we are, and now in Eldoret, I said again, they've estimated that it can be from, from here to Rwanda. What I'm just looking at is the Northern Corridor. We're just appreciating the level of infrastructure, and they're seeing the trucks that's coming all the way from Mombasa, and they ply through this route, going down to Rwanda, Burundi, and other countries. From where you sit, I think, as in the East African community, looking at this forum as among the first of counties coming together, how will they position themselves to take advantage of the community?
Well, first of all, what strikes me is that this region is beginning to look very much like Nairobi. Yeah. Which is a very good thing, because it means you have now a consumer base, it's possible to carry out production here. It also has its challenges in that it means it will require dedicated leadership with vision and execution. Yeah, that's the challenge. And you hear me, Laban, talking about leadership, not politics, because it's possible to be a politician and a terrible leader. A good politician and a terrible leader. It's also possible to be a fantastic leader and find challenges doing politics. So I think if this region can identify leaders from the governors we've seen here, identify leaders in the private sector, identify leaders among the youth, identify leaders among women, because the women are the next frontier, so to speak. If we can do that, that is the best positioning that this region can do. And I'm sure investors will find you. I am not an investor myself. I only know how to talk to them and help them find where to go. But I'm sure they'll find you if you can do that.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We're going to have reactions from, of course, the plenary and speak a bit to investors out there. We'll prepare for that shortly. But I just want to go back to Kiprono Kitoni, who's the chairman of the Kenya Chamber of Commerce and Industry. There's been talk. We're just 4 days away from the Kenya National, which is the investment conference, kind of brings in worldwide, I would say, a view of positioning Kenya as a growth hub. I just want to talk to you, Kiprono Kitoni, and look at a matter of how counties bigger and better in the entire country can actually form, can I say, cohesiveness in terms of, wooing investors as one.
We've seen Google, we've seen Microsoft, we've seen Nestle. A lot of the world's leading businesses, Virgin, come to Kenya and want to engage and do business here. And I think the vision of the government, under the leadership, of course, of CSS Kandia's ministry, came up with the International Investment Conference that will really give the country an opportunity to showcase the opportunities that abound, and also an opportunity to engage on a one-to-one with these investors. So all roads lead to Nairobi for next Monday. We have a 3-day activity, and I do believe that at this point in time we have investors from over 20 countries coming to Kenya, and it is really a manifestation of the fact that there's a lot of interest in this region. And like CK Joshua said, we must not take for granted the fact that we have so many consumers here and a young, vibrant population that will definitely be an attraction to any investor globally.
I'm really doing a lot of examples because I know there's a deal signed with Baringo County in terms of investors looking GDC, Tala Oil, they're prospecting for power. But I want to change the conversation a bit. Look at the off-grid, people who are looking at biogas, generating their own sort of energy in the small-scale sectors. How are you encouraging this as Kenya Power?
Like I said before, among you may be investors who could be interested in generating energy to sell to us. Some investors might want to look at small hydro, which is a very welcome idea because it's cheaper. Some investors might want to invest in solar panels. There are some already around Eldoret. In fact, we are waiting to commission anytime soon about 80 megawatts of solar from within Eldoret, about 30 kilometers from here. There are so many rivers around these 8 counties, and there's huge potential. It is important to recognize that even as we move towards the 5,000 megawatts program, it is critical that we recognize that it is not the installed capacity that matters. It is the cost. The end user recognizes the cost. No matter how much you have in terms of installed capacity, if the cost is prohibitive, then we won't attract anybody with it. Because energy is above 30% of the inputs in any manufacturing process. And therefore, those who are interested in investing had better recognize that point. We could easily enter into power purchase agreements with investors of all categories, of all sources. But as an investor in energy, it is important to remember that your energy source must be dispatched. It must end with a consumer. In the PPA, power purchase agreement, we provide 2 levels of payments. One level of payment is that of capacity charge, where we pay consumers, or rather investors, for what they have invested in. And the next category is that category which is energy charge, which recognizes that your energy is dispatched to the consumer. And if your cost is higher than your other investors, you end up being paid capacity charge only. And therefore, you don't add much value in terms of capacity that is installed in the economy. And so that is one thing that we must recognize as we attract investors in the energy sector. Of course, for those who are already doing business in this part of the country, what is important to appreciate is that KPSC is guaranteeing reliability. This year alone, we are putting down 10 billion Kenya shillings to make sure that the network, the existing infrastructure is sound and robust enough to give you service. And you must have seen what we are doing in our major program, Boresha Stima Fuandani, which has now become Boresha Stima everywhere. And in order to appreciate and recognize that there could be potential investors coming to the country, and therefore we need to expand the existing investment, or rather the existing installed capacity, which stands at the moment at 2298 megawatts. And as we move towards the 5,000 megawatts, in addition to the current capacity that we have, it is important that we expand the existing infrastructure. And as we speak today, and this is very, very important to those who are already here and those who are coming, Kenya Power and Lighting has 252 projects worth 119 billion Kenya shillings. The objective of these projects are so that we are able to make the network robust, expand it to reach everywhere in the country, and so that we can supply our customers, particularly large customers, from more than one source.
Thanks.
And so that whenever we have any challenge, whether we are maintaining the network or not, we don't have to interrupt our customers. And so that gives you a very powerful message on what KPSC is trying to do to guarantee you adequacy in terms of generation and reliability in terms of supply going forward. And we want to welcome you with both hands to invest in this part of the country. Thank you very much.
Now, very quickly, we just want to have a feel. Yes, we speak about investors, and I wanted to bring you, Langa, to just talk about it, because more would-be investors would ask that, hey, how is it, first of all, doing business in Wasigishu before I put my money in Wasigishu? And I want to use your litmus test. Just very quickly, as you're getting the mic, I want to open it up to the floor. And there's an investor who I was to speak to earlier. His name is Simon, traveled all the way from Denmark to attend this function, and he's really interested in value addition in agriculture, look at milk processing. I don't know if Simon is here. Simon Engelbrecht. Simon Engelbrecht, if we could just get the mic to him, just as we are getting the reaction from Langat. Simon, and again, I will pass it on to our speaker, Ekwe Thuro, to just react to that point. Most of the time, we have a lot of politicking and really not would-be investors or politicians really trying to look at the politics at it, and businessmen want to look at the business side to it.
I've done largely a lot of development in this, one being that new city which is coming in. And I want to say I've found Wasigishu County to be one of the very efficient counties. Wherever you make an appointment, you get instant, they are able to receive you and be able to meet all the ministers at the county, Wasigishu counties. There's no day I've ever come and I miss to meet the people of Wasigishu. And actually, there is opportunity here because the land is available. You can invest here without a problem. There is infrastructure which is good. They have water. They have electricity as suggested by Dr. Chuma. There is an 80 megawatt power plant coming very soon, in about 30 kilometers from here, and that will give support to the development, especially the industrialization that is about to come in this region.
Thank you. I'm wondering why you are giving me the most controversial bit, but I guess that's my business. Let me start by saying we need each and every person, leave alone the leadership, to participate in whatever we are doing at the county level. Be it at the national level or be it at the county level, everybody belongs to some county, including the President of the Republic. So we need members of parliament, we need honorable MCS, because all the things that we are going to do in terms of investment and trade will require an enabling environment. That enabling environment must be anchored in law. So I think that's one observation I wanted to make. What is the ease of doing business? What is the harmonization of the taxation regimes? Are you going to tax from one county to another, different and many types of taxes? So this is why we are excited about this particular forum, where now, as Governor Cheboy said, we are now coming to harmonize the kind of way we are going to do our business in the region to create those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ekwethuro. Just because I'll be sitting next to CS Phyllis Kende, you've traveled far and wide marketing Kenya. We know there's a Make It Kenya campaign looking at it. You have the 4-day Function Kenya Investment Conference next week. When we talk about having investors or giving them information or where to put their money, look at NOREB as an example. Would you say they're on the right track?
Indeed, you've just said it. They are on the right track. Just to say that at the national government, we're in the process of setting up a one-stop center that is for investors coming from all over the world to come to Kenya. And that's where we will get all the information, all the facilitation for investors. And we will work with the county governments to ensure that we facilitate investors to get information, to get facilitated, so that we get more investors coming in. And so for us, really, this NOREB is an idea that its time has come. It's forward-looking. It's something that will fast-track what we are trying to do in terms of ensuring that we create that environment that is attractive to investors.
So I can see 3 hands right to my right. You're going to stand, introduce yourself. If Simon back, Simon Engelbert from Denmark. If not, you'll just stand, introduce yourself and to who your question is directed.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Peter Biwott. I work for the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce as the Trade Development Manager. I have 3 questions. Actually, one on the issue of regulations, and I want to shoot it to Ali Khan. I think the question is, we are hearing here is harmonization. I think it shouldn't be that. We should think about reducing the cost of doing business rather than harmonization. What is your view? And then my second question to Dr. Chuma of Kenya Power. Now, I'm interested to know what actually you're doing in a vast region like Turkana County and Samburu County in terms of having the citizen to access power, because energy actually, power has an effect to improve human capital. And a lot of students in that region need power. So what are you doing efficiently to ensure that a lot of people in Turkana and Samburu County are accessing power? And finally, Professor Kituro Wainaina of the Vision 2030, how can you advise counties in terms of ensuring that the local people benefit from the standard gauge railway, the LAPSET, and actually the oil and gas industry which is found in this region? Thank you very much.
One goes to Dr. Chumo. Dr. Chumo, you have done a wonderful job. Last time we were in Kisumu, insecurity has really gone down because of the lighting system. But the last time we checked, there was installation fee which was supposed to be reduced from 35 to 15,000. How far is it implemented? Number 2, how is your office or Kenya Power prepared to promote the prepaid services other than the postpaid, where there is frequent disconnection at household level, which promotes corruption? Kitu kidogo, so that I can connect you back. Another question goes to Vision 2030, Director General Professor Wainaina. As Vision 2030, one of the key pillars, the economic pillar, the key component is retail and wholesale. How do you position yourself to work closely with the county governments to realize the goals of Vision 2030? Lastly, I want to observe, life does not reward thoughts, it rewards manifestation of thoughts. Congrats to North Rift governors for this noble initiative. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Mishra. I'm from the sector of health and education. I have a question to Dr. Ambassador Sajibera Amakuru Nimeza. Now I am from Rwanda also. Now I want to ask the question, in the policy of investment and for the investors, when the East Africa community is going to unify the administrative, financial, legal, and cultural aspects to unify them. Because, for example, to transfer the technology intra-East Africa, the experts, movements, equipment maintenance, development of infrastructure, and logistics. For that reason, when we are going to unify through East African Parliament and other communities. Second question, rather than a request to Dr. Ben Chumo. First of all, congratulations, the big work we are doing. But for certain sectors, can we evaluate the power consumption for the local investors for high grade and extreme end machines? Because we are paying a lot of money and fees for to the Kenya Power for a high-end medical and engineering equipments. So can you have a consideration for that? Thank you very much. God bless.
So allow me to ask Dr. Richard Sezibera to just respond to that, and then now we'll move in that quick order back also to Dr. Benchmo. Please, sir.
The question of harmonization of laws and regulations and standards is approached in 3 levels at the East African community. One is the issue of standards. For those goods that are moving across the region, we want to have East African standards. We have identified about 5,000 critical standards. We have 1,500 which are now East African. For the rest that are not yet East African, we then ask for mutual recognition so that these products can move. And we do this with the East African Business Council, to which KEPSA is a member, and others. The second level is the level of regulations. And over the past 2 years, we have spent most of our time passing regulations in the financial sector, because we wanted financial integration to enable, to accompany the movement of goods. So the Council of Ministers has passed about 11 regulations in this area, including some in investment, and they have to be domesticated quickly so that this can move. We have about another 11 coming up. And then on the third level is the level of the laws now. And in the laws, we have the East African Legislative Assembly has just passed an East African Transactions Bill, Electronic Transactions Bill, to do exactly what, to help what CK was talking about here. And there will be other bills coming up. So that is the way we approach it at East African level. Now, the job is enormous. We carried out a review of the common market, and there are 673 pieces of legislation, regulation, or directives which have to be amended to make our common market work even better. So that is a lot of work for our national parliaments and the regional parliament.
Thank you. I think I had 2 questions, and the first one was how local people benefit. And I think it's very important to appreciate, if we are doing LAPSET, our local people are not the Talus of this world. But one thing we need to step back, these people must eat. Where is the food going to come from? There might be welders, there might be electricians. These are the local people who are going to supply that. The fertilizer factory in Wansanegishu, who are going to work in that factory. Let me share with the governance, there is a program called SOGA, Skills for Oil and Gas in Africa. It is targeting the local people to provide them those skills. We might not do the pipeline, but we require Kenyans, we require the local people to be in that. And there is a lot of opportunity when you look at LAPSET, you look at SGR, food security, whatever area you touch. And I might inform Richard, this is the first time we're having a lady in Rwanda through the SGR process. The second question was asked by the gentleman, and I think Madam CS mentioned to it, the retail and wholesale. How do we position ourselves? You're right, it's a flagship at the economic pillar. And I think Madam mentioned about it. The first thing we have done, and the governor of Wansanegishu is here, we at the Vision 2030, we have signed 8 MOUs with the counties. And we're also working with her ministry in terms of actualizing those wholesale. And that's the entry we find working with the governance in terms of making it work within those particular counties. I want to add the last one, which I think is Kiprono shared with me this one, and I think we are at about 35,000 feet in the air. And I think it's an important one, Richard, as we go as we move from here. No trade will happen if there is no free movement of people. And I share with you an experience. I had women doing SMEs in Kampala. They told me they don't understand what happens at Namanga. I don't have a passport, but I want to sail to the Kenyan on the other side. We must encourage that free movement of our people. And it's important when you have the initiative like this, it is something we should encourage from the national level, from the Vision 2030. In Kenya, we support this initiative. Thanks.
Looking at such trade blocks and looking at those partnerships, we have 8 coming together today. We need more, say, in the coastal, more in the central region. How can that be encouraged?
No, I think first of all, to just take a few steps back, devolution, the last great devolution experiment in the world as we know it was in Indonesia. It happened just a few years ago. So we've embarked on an incredible development, and I think it's full of promise, and I think we shouldn't forget that it is really an enormous experiment about, and from my experience being a Kenyan, lately I've been going around Kenya and places which were really nothing going on before. I was near the border in Tanzania and in Mali and right down that road, and there was nothing there before, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I think there's already been substantial economic diffusion that's happening. I think that's going to accelerate, and I think that's a great thing. About partnerships, which is what you were really asking about, we live in a new age of collaboration. We have to collaborate with each other. 1 + 1 does not necessarily end up at 2, it can end up at 11. And I think the more collaboration you have in a country, the more possibilities open up. And of that I'm utterly convinced. So I see it as a very good thing. I think NOREB is at the forefront of it. And if I might just say one thing, the Secretary General has been at the forefront of EAC for a number of years. It has been an enormous success when you compare it to any other trading bloc in Africa. And I think we should also commend the Secretary General for that achievement. Sometimes he doesn't say much, but he's doing a lot. So I think it's an excellent thing. If I can just answer Peter's question, which was about reducing cost, the cost of doing business. Two things that I'll mention. When I brought my dongle for Safaricom, actually, when I came up here, and when I flicked on the computer, it had some like 4G connection. I don't know how, it was super quick. So just to go back to your point, I don't think it's rocket science. My theory is, the smaller unit you're running, the more adaptive you've got to be, the more innovative you've got to be as a policymaker. And if I can leave you with one final thought, I got in a taxi in Dubai, and the man in Dubai told me, as he was taking me in the taxi, he said, every time I take someone for a ride, I have to pay a very small amount to the sheikh, to the government of Dubai. My view is, when you tax low. Let the volumes come. Don't overtax, because one mistake on that front, people get nervous, they think there's too much volatility, they think it's unfair. Go low, you will find that the curve will go like that.
Thank you very much. Up and coming up with ideas of innovation, entrepreneurship. I know you've been a big supporter of the next big thing on the Business Daily and NTV, and really trying to spark entrepreneurship among the youth. If you also react to that.
I think the ultimate solution, because the key thing is that we can't dwell on the past. The critical thing for us is, for the counties particularly, is to focus on education and technical education, particularly the DVET institution. You need to produce artisans if you want to attract manufacturing in this region. It's critical for you to make sure that you upskill the people so that we can have the right people who will be able to run machines and so forth. That's critical. Number 2 is that it is important also to start now cultivating or nurturing incubations of entrepreneurs, because they are the people who will be able to create jobs. Government will not create jobs by itself. If you look at the national statistics of this country, up to 24% is what governments can generate employment, 77% in the private sector. So you need also to adapt in your policy a strategy where you need to elevate entrepreneurships in your region so that we are able to change your region and make your region to be competitive just like any city, any part of the world. Clearly, our future is in the young generation. And if you don't put investments in those young generation and guide them well, train them well, show them, let them take risk. In fact, the CEO of Alibaba says that there are people who can make mistakes and their mistakes end up being revenue tomorrow. So clearly encourage you guys in the counties, talk to us with business people. Have a dialogue with us. You know, sometimes I see you go outside the country. We have gone outside the country ourselves for more than 30 years. We are doing business. We have knowledge. If we are doing business in this country and investing fiber technology in your ground, don't you think we have something that we can tell you so that you can learn for it to make a difference? We have the urgency to generate employment. And the only way we can generate employment is to attract investors, create an enabling environment, partnership together, dialogue together, because the world is changing. For example, I am an investor in the media. Today, Americans today are taking the gleam of the media through what we call over the internet. TV is going to change. It is over the internet. It's an apps. If you are on your 4G phone or you have a broadband connection, today you are able to see television anywhere in the world. You don't necessarily need, when you are sitting, you are able to access on your phone. What does it tell you? The world is changing. People are getting information. People know through social media what activities you are discussing here. They know your likes. They mine the data, what we call data analytics. So clearly, I'm encouraging you guys, and I'm sponsoring young guys who are young entrepreneurs from this region. I'm sponsoring them as a patron because I want to build the next millionaires.
I had actually prepared some slides for this particular meeting. And here we are. These are our investments for those particular counties, for the 8 counties, and look at the investments in Samburu and Turkana. Look at the amounts of money that we're trying to put down in them, and that tells you what we're trying to do in terms of improving access in both Turkana and Samburu. We know where they are at the moment, and our focus is to improve them so that they are equal with others who are within this particular block. That is the answer to my first question. What are we doing to enhance access to Turkana and Samburu? So much is going on as compared to other counties. We know there's huge potential there, and we are not lost to it. The second question is, when are we reducing the cost from 35,000 shillings currently for single-phase connection to what the government proclaimed about 3 months ago to 15,000 shillings? The project, Last Mile Project, because that's the name of the project, which is intended to bring down the cost of connection on single-phase basis from 15,000 shillings, or rather 35,000 shillings to 15,000 shillings, is a government-supported project. The government has gone out of its way to borrow money, soft loans, from development partners, African Development Bank, World Bank, and other partners, on grant that amount to KPLC, for KPLC to take advantage of its existing infrastructure to connect households who are close to that infrastructure at 15,000 shillings. That is the way the project is going to be implemented. As we speak today, the government has attracted 43.5 billion Kenya shillings towards that project. We are going to connect 314,000 households across the 47 counties, which will translate to 1.5 million customers or Kenyans consuming power, because every household has 5.5 people in it, and that is under phase 1. And as we speak today, we already have procured contractors to commence work as soon as possible. And so we are seeing phase 1 already moving on to implementation. Phase 2 has 15 billion shillings from African Development Bank, and we have another 15 billion shillings from World Bank, and the two are in the process of being processed in terms of approvals before they move to implementation. This is going to be something like we've never seen before in terms of access to power. This will give us what we have been looking for, universal access before 2020. And we don't expect our Kenyans to apply for power this time around. We know where the transformers are, and we shall connect all neighborhoods within those transformers, and therefore there's no need for any application. That is what this government is going to be doing through us.
My closing remarks is that with the wonderful job you've done as the counties, now you should set the base to make sure that whatever you've done today, there's a follow-up. Because we've done a lot of investment forum, and we don't have a follow-up. So I hope this time we set standards by following up, and then next meeting we can be able to, as testify, say, this meeting produced how many investors, how many people have already come, people who have invested, and it will bring us revenue to our counties. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, to our chairman, Kenya National Commercial Industries, Kiprono Kitoni.
Okay, thank you. I think a lot has been said today about what we are doing right. But I think in forums such as this, it's also important to focus a little bit on what we are not doing correct. One of the things that I would say with no fear of contradiction, is communication is terrible, especially by the national government. The communication is poor. And we must call a spade a spade. The country is doing well, and I have traveled to over 30 countries in the last 2 years. Kenya is doing very well. But because of such poor communication, everybody thinks that Kenya is not doing well. We want to call upon the national government, develop an effective communication strategy. Speak loudly, stand tall. And I must say, when Governor Mutua was the chief government spokesman, on a good day and on a bad day, he stood and expressed what the government was thinking. Today, we don't know who's speaking about what. So what happens as a result is the narrative changes and is hijacked by people who don't wish well for Kenya. We are doing well, and let the national government stand up and declare it. In fact, it's taken so long for the Ministry of Tourism to get a decent budget. Even our tourism sector is completely undermarketed, undersold. So we have a very little chance of competing on the global platform if we don't communicate effectively. Finally, the private sector is dealing with corruption. We are going to, through our membership associations, through KEPSA, through CAM, through the chamber, we are going to deal with corruption. We hope that we're going to see the same vigor from the public sector. It's always been assumed that corruption is a public sector problem. In the private sector, we are going to deal with it. We are going to ostracize business people who are corrupt.
To our panelists, ladies and gentlemen, shall we all appreciate our panelists led by our chief guest, Ambassador Dr. Richard Sezibera.